What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardavox Academy here. I am the vocalist of Kardashev, Neverbreath, and Viramia, and I am a vocal coach as well, specializing in gritty singing and death metal gurgles and deathcore screaming and all that good stuff. Now, something really cool is happening today. Well, okay, technically I'm filming this on Wednesday, but it's premiering on Saturday the 24th, and that cool thing is that Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory turns 20. It turns 20, which is today for you, October 24th. One thing to keep in mind while we talk about Chester Bennington and what makes him such a loved and sought after vocalist is why he sounds so unique, why nobody else can sound, or it seems like nobody else can sound like he does. A lot of people get close, but in my opinion, nobody quite hits it, right? That being said, while we talk about his techniques, I'm going to sound different than this guy. I've got a lower voice than he does. We're going to be using the same techniques, but it's going to be coming out of my head with my face and my chest and my vocal folds. Even if you try some of this stuff at home, you're very likely not going to sound exactly like him, and that's okay. If you haven't checked out our Patreon, feel free to do so. It's been hopping. We have a Discord server that we all like to talk on, and it is super fun. We even started a World of Warcraft guild, so that's weird, but it's been going on. We like to play Among Us and other things as well. We really just hang out, and our patrons get to pick one video a month for me to react to. Which is pretty cool. And lastly, I want to say a huge thanks to the guys at Brimminghorn Meadery. They did not sponsor this video. They're just super rad, and they gave me this shirt. Ta-da! Look at that. It's got a pissed off bee. Why does it have a bee? Well, that is because...
Honey! It's made from honey!
They also sent me this cool beanie. Thanks, dudes.
It starts with
one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away. It's so unreal. Didn't look out below. Watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on, didn't even know I wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to be will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard and got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all. But in the end, it doesn't even matter.
That's a good spot to talk. So, oh man, that first section brings a lot of memories of me dramatically looking out rainy car windows, being like, it doesn't even matter. My life is so hard. I'm 14 or however old I was at the time. But let's go ahead and talk about Chester Bennington. One thing that's so cool about him is he has so much contrast. I mean, he is this powerhouse fry screamer. He is this belting, raspy singer, and yet he can get delicate when he needs to. Here at the beginning, the very first note, it's a little bit different from, I think, maybe people who had heard other Linkin Park songs would have expected coming from him, because it's so very soft. Let's check it out.
It starts with
One thing.
A right here, it starts with one. Right? It's super relaxed. It's super gentle. He's holding back a little bit. Now, as it goes on, we have predominantly Michael Shinoda doing the rapping section. And one thing we're going to notice, hit my microphone. One thing we're going to notice as the song goes on is how the difference in their timbre, the difference in their voice quality actually lends really well to each other. Mike Shinoda, he's more here. Hey, he's speaking back in the mouth like this, ba-da-da-da. And then we have Chester Bennington, and he's more in the front, right? A lot of his singing is right here. Like if he was to speak, it would be in the front. A little bit of nasality, and that can actually make some of his notes. Now, Chester Bennington has a huge vocal, like a very high vocal range. Like he is a very, 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 like he's easily a tenor, right? But a lot of the time he can take these notes that are even lower. It starts with one. which is oh wow, look at me. So A sharp B. It's not that high, right? But because his timbre is so forward, it starts with one versus here. It starts with one. It starts with one. It has that delicate sound. Let's go ahead and get into it because we all know this song gets pretty crazy down the road.
I don't know why.
Oh, we gotta scooch back to where we were. There we go.
But in the end, it doesn't even matter.
One thing, I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to remind myself how I tried so hard. In spite of the way you were mocking me, acting like I was part of your property. Remembering all the times you fought with me, I'm surprised it got so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me in the end. You kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I tried so hard and got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all. But in the end, it doesn't even matter.
All right, there's more we can talk about here too. One thing that's really cool, and one thing that we hear from Mr. Bennington here is we hear from it here. Good Lord. Not pun not intended. One thing we hear is him going from a light, breathy voice and then slowly closing up those vocal folds to get a little bit more power as he leans into this section, right? And that's a really cool way to let the listener know, like, hey, things are going to get a little bit more powerful here. So let's check it out. I think it was right here. Oh, no, farther back.
But it all comes back to me in the end. You kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I tried so hard and got so far.
Now, this is a good section. This is a good section to start talking about what makes him sound a little bit more like him, right? First of all, we've talked about the very forward voice, right? So he, when he sings, he doesn't sing back in his throat. He doesn't sing high on his soft palate. He sings here in the front. Now he mixes that with a belt, right? Straight up, if you're going to be doing, like, if your goal is to like do this raspy singing like Chester Bennington, you're going to need to know how to belt properly, right? I mean, you can just push as hard as you can and get some grit and it might sound like him, sure. But if you want to learn how to do it properly, if you want to learn how to do it so it's not going to hurt you and you'll be able to have that longevity, you're going to need to learn how to belt properly, right? And belting involves essentially increasing our volume by understanding how our voice resonates and holding our vocal folds together versus letting them flip into that falsetto, right? So for example, being able to say, hey, hey, yeah, like that sort of thing, right? And that's going to be where we're going to start putting our grit. That's what we're going to start putting our grit on top of. And belting is a very serious balance. It's relaxation, it's oral posture, and it's breath support all working together, right? Now he sort of leans onto the grit a little bit, and this grit is coming from a combination of things. I hear a lot of people say like this is a fry scream, and there is certainly vocal fry going on. Well, we should say fry distortion. I like to distinguish between those two because they sound and they feel different, right? Vocal fry is down here, and while a similar principle is in play for the way that he's creating the distortion up in this higher range up in his mix, we could say, it's not going to feel like that at all. But he's also he's also narrowing the space in his oropharynx, and I talk about that a lot because it's tremendously common. He's basically taking the soft palate and the tissues around it, cinching them up and getting a lot of distortion from there as well. And oftentimes when we do these types of screams, there's a space above our vocal folds called the laryngeal funnel, and we'll squeeze that a little bit as well. And the false chords, they may not rattle and generate distortion, but they may help narrow the airway, right? So there's a lot of different stuff going on with these types of screams. So we need to kind of understand and take a holistic approach when we try to do this, right? Now you can do it however you want, just as long as you're doing it safely. But listen to how he slowly turns on the grit here, and then we'll keep going. Doodle.
But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I've put my trust in you. Just as far as I can go. For all.
Okay, so that's a perfect place to talk about how forward he is. Listen to his voice. It's like a little nasal, right? It's a little bit, we got a little bit of coming in. And you can see him opening his mouth and he's pulling, like, this is actually a pretty good screenshot, right? I mean, admittedly, he's lip syncing because it's a music video more than likely, but he's pulling his lips back, right? He's kind of raising his cheeks a little bit. And you can hear how much of a difference that makes in the sound of our voice. Right? One is very warm and kind of muddy, and the other is bright and sharper, essentially. And so listen to how he sort of leans into he adds a little bit of nasal coloring, I like to call it. Well, a lot of people like to call it that. It really helps that bright, forward vocal quality that we really enjoy from him so much.
Lost in you, just as far as I can go.
See?
For all this, there's only one thing you should know.
A ton right there. No, right?
Only one thing you should know.
Yeah, super forward, super bright. A little bit more nasality than I think most people would want to put, but he pulls it off so well, and he has such good control over it. Now the song picks up.
You should know. I've put my trust in you, pushed as far as I can go. For all this, there's only one thing you should know.
You know, if you've got a little bit of belting down, and you've got some decent, you're not maybe like a beginner singer and you can sing with rasp decently well, this would be a really good section to practice because it's somewhat monotone, right? It's nice and slow. It's nice and monotone. And what we can do is we can take that and we can slowly lean on a little bit of distortion, right? So, hey, I put my trust in you. I pushed as far as I can go. Right? You can slowly lean on it. That might have peaked out my microphone. My apologies. A little clipping there. Let's scooch back and try it again. And if both takes are fine, you get both. And if one is terrible, because the audio quality, we cut it out. So let's scooch back a little bit. Shaplow. So we take this section. I put my trust in you. I pushed as far as I can go. Now, the nice thing about that is when we know how to belt first, we know how to support first, then it's not that much work to add that grit and distortion, right? That grit and distortion is coming from a very strategic and very controlled squeeze. I like to say engagement over squeeze for obvious reasons, but it's coming from a very strategic squeeze around the vocal folds lightly to get a little bit of that fry distortion, above the vocal folds to narrow the airway just slightly, so that we have a stronger airstream that then goes up to our narrowed oropharynx, rattles around all these tissues up here, giving us a lot of distortion. A lot of times the majority of the distortion we're actually hearing, and then it projects out. And we project it through an embouchure, a vocal posture that's bright, that's forward. I put my trust in you. And it's going to get you a little bit closer to this. Right now, remember, this guy is pretty damn good, so don't worry if you don't sound exactly like him. But that's a way that you can do it. Now, I really want to stress, I know I've said this a couple times, but I really want to stress, like, this is tougher to do, right? This is not where you should start. I can't stop you from starting there, but this is not where you should start. You need to view this as part of a bigger vocal journey, right? Learn to be comfortable in your chest voice. Learn to be comfortable in your head voice. Take those two things and kind of use those to start building a mix, right? To start building a mixed register, a mixed voice. From there, start belting. From there, start working on distortion. So, this might take you a couple months, and that's okay. That's okay if that's the case, because if you take your time and you do it right, you're going to sound awesome. If you don't take your time and you don't do it right, you're going to probably sound awesome, but you're going to be in a lot of pain, and your career will be done sooner than you would more than likely like. So, something to think about. So let's go ahead. Let's go back a little bit just because I really like this section, and let's keep listening.
I've put my trust in you, pushed as far as I can go. For all this, there's only one thing you should know. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Remember when this would get played on the radio and they would always cut off that really cool outro with the piano? I remember that. Anyways, so that is, in the end, Linkin Park, Chester Bennington. In my opinion, one of the greats when it comes to, metal singing and raspy singing and things like that. Just so good. And what better way to celebrate Hybrid Theory's 20th anniversary than to do this song? Now, just to kind of recap some of the stuff that we talked about, first and foremost, if you want to try to sing like this, don't worry about matching his pitch, his range. Take it where you're comfortable. If you're a guy like me and you're a baritone, some of these higher notes might be tough. That's okay. Move it down to your comfortable range, bring it down to a spot where you're comfortable, then take your singing voice and focus on just being able to sing in your chest, in your modal register, your voice right here. So make sure when you sing, your chest voice is nice and comfortable, right? That you're not losing control of it. Then, move up. Ooh, get used to the head voice. Start putting, getting some control over that. After these two things come into play, then take some of the power that you've been working on alongside of these, the chest voice and the head voice. Take these two things, add breath support, and start leaning into that voice so you can get a little bit more power with a lot of relaxation. From there, I know I'm going on a long ways, but it's because I care about you and I care about your voice. I want to make sure you do it right. And from there, then you can start learning to gently squeeze in here to start adding that distortion. And it's going to start to come a little naturally, right? Now, part of the reason I want you to do all these things first, chest, head, mix, belt, distort, is because even if you do everything right, but your muscles aren't that strong, then you could damage your voice, or at minimum, put yourself out for a couple weeks, right? Because I could have perfect posture. I could have perfect posture to do deadlifts, right? But the fact is, I don't train deadlifting, right? So if I push myself through weight I'm not ready for, even if my posture was perfect, I'm still going to hurt myself because my muscles aren't ready for it, right? With this, even if you do everything else perfectly, your muscles may not be ready for it. So you need to take your time. You need to be kind to yourself. And again, don't worry if you don't sound exactly like him. Chances are you won't, but you'll sound exactly like you. And that's pretty cool as long as you're in control and you're safe and you're healthy and you're doing what you love. That being said, again, thank you for watching this video. A lot of fun to make. If you want, check out our Patreon. We are doing a lot of cool stuff in the Discord channel. It's a lot of fun. Come play some games with us. Sometimes we stay up way too late in voice chat, just talking about whatever the heck we want. But as always, many thanks, much love. I'm out.